One of the most important practices of the Holy Prophet in building his community was having communal learning. He really used to emphasize durus. And every time somebody would dars, lessons, classes, somebody would convert to Islam, the Prophet of Allah would mandate upon him to start lessons. Try to imagine what the mosque of the Prophet looked like in the time of the Holy Prophet. Let us say you came after the time of prayer. What do you think was happening in the masjid of the Prophet? If you came after the time of prayer or before the time of prayer, in the masjid of the Holy Prophet, people were gathered in circles, in halaqa, and they were learning from one another. They were learning Quran. They were learning fiqh. They were learning aqa'id. They were learning the teachings of Islam. There were so many gatherings in the masajid that sometimes the Prophet of Allah had to come out and say, now your voices are going up, you have to lower your voices. Anytime a tribe would convert to Islam, the Prophet of Allah would send one of his students to go and teach them about Islam. Even the women folk were engaged in learning about Islam. One day a week, the Prophet of Allah would teach the women about Islam. Nobody was excused from having classes. I'm emphasizing this right now because we're coming to an end of a period of mourning. And maybe for many of us, we're going to be going back to our normal lives now. Inshallah, we'll try to come once a week to the masjid. If Allah gives us tawfiq, maybe twice a week to the masjid. Right? So what's important is as we come to the masjid on Thursday night and on Friday, is also equally important that each and every one of us and together were involved in taking classes and courses on Islam. Right? Sacred communities are built around sacred concepts. We're a sacred community when all of us are learning sacred concepts together. That's what makes the community sacred. Right? And one of the keys to building sacred communities is the role of the alim within the community and the role of a scholar within the community. You know, before we come to the role of the scholar, I just want you to imagine for a moment that you take a branch and you separate that branch from a tree. So now, initially when you separate that branch from the tree, the branch is not going to die. The branch will survive. You'll keep it at home. It'll look like it's going to survive for the next few days. But we all know what's going to happen to that branch. After some period of time, that branch is going to wither and die. Right? If we get separated from the teachings of Islam, and we get separated from the sources of the teachings of Islam, and we get separated from the Hawza Ilmiya, from the Islamic seminaries, if the jama'ah, if the community becomes separated, there is no connection between the people and the sources of Islam, there is only one thing happening to the jama'ah. And it's the same thing that's happening to the branch. It will survive for a few months. It will survive for a few years. But there's only one direction it's taking.